Anderson, you are called in for therapy. What the fuck was that? Pleasant is sitting in her chair, nice and sweet and old lady-like. And she smiles. Good evening. Do you prefer Mr. Henderson?
That's fine. Most people just call Henderson without the Mr.
Right, so you prefer last name instead of the first, though?
I mean, there's nothing really wrong with the first. It's just, just the last, I guess, sort of like a nickname.
What would you prefer Richard or Henderson?
Just Henderson. We'll stick with that.
All right. Well, Henderson, is there anything you would like to talk about specifically today?
I mean, I sort of figured that the Guardians had probably an idea of what they wanted me to talk about.
You want to speak about whatever's on your mind. Everything you say is confidential. This is to help you.
Henderson kind of pauses for a moment. Like, I mean, I'm assuming that they want me to talk about punching Cheney.
Can you tell me about what happened during that?
We were in the hedge, and we apparently reached a section that had lost phone calls, and I heard one from my living son, wishing me good luck and that he missed me and all that, and there was another one on my phone, which I don't know if you're aware, but Cheney kept for herself for months after it was taken from me for trying to contact outside the Guardians. So the phone was taken away, and then Cheney decided it was her phone for her own personal use, rather than locking it up somewhere or whatever. And there was a call on there from our ex-ace of spades, Aubrey, telling her to return it to me, dated back several months prior to when she actually returned it to me. And, it's her sister, and she was dead, and everyone was giving Cheney hugs and sympathy, and I was not in a good head space, I guess, and I punched her because I felt it seemed unfair, and I got angry and irrational about the unfairness of it.
What about the situation was unfair to you?
Well, I understand that in this line of work, we sort of have to let certain things slide. Like, maybe we've hired a serial killer recently, and no one's really addressed that, because we can't really be picky. I feel like there hasn't been enough acknowledgement of the fact that Aubrey, and presumably Cheney, who knew of the plan at least, and I assume helped manipulate us through it, the atrocities that they performed to get us here. And not just that, but no one seems to acknowledge that Cheney's kind of a dick. Like, they're like, oh, she's just a rascally scamp. But, I mean, this phone had the only pictures of my family on it that I had left, since I can't go back to my home where my scrapbooks are and our other photos in our computer. And she downloaded mobile games on it and used it to text Lemon's little flirty things and whatever. And no one acknowledges the shittiness of a lot of that stuff, I guess. And I'm normally very good at maintaining my composure. It's just in that moment I was under a lot of stress and I lost sight of the bigger picture, and so I lashed out at that smaller indiscretion.
She nods. Have you had any other problems with coworkers?
I mean, nothing huge. Lemons was stepping over my personal boundaries because of my house now being sort of a part of the Guardians, like, operations now, but he was stepping into my private life as well, and I had to lay out that line. And I've never been entirely comfortable with Tomo, but that's sort of... There's been moments when I've yelled at people, but it's always... I don't know if it's a chronic... I don't think it's a chronic disagreement. It's usually just in the heat of the moment.
And what are these disagreements generally concerning?
It's usually it's when I don't agree with the action, or usually more often the inaction we're taking during a mission. I yelled at Natalie when I felt she was holding information back that was preventing us from working properly. I yelled at Hellings once when I felt that he had killed something he shouldn't have. And that was more emotional. I yelled at Sal for hurting our God, just me. For going too far against a human, now our compatriot. I felt he was trying to kill him, it seemed like. And I didn't agree with that. And when they tried to go, I guess I didn't really get a chance to yell at them. I probably would have if they were down, but when they went to go to try to kill or confront Bo, and I knew that was wrong.
And to turn gears here a little bit, how has you mentioned you are in a separate house here.
Yeah.
With your son, correct?
And Liz now as well, yeah. Yes.
How has the home life been?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of home life. We had only recently finished the house for good when our first mission into the hedge took us, several weeks out of time, and then we came back briefly and then went back into the hedge, and then we lost the months. It's... For a little bit, it seemed like Hawthorne was adjusting, that, he had school friends and was going to school, and I was thinking maybe we could actually make a life here, but now half of his classmates are gone or missing or maybe even dead, and it's like I managed just for a moment to get him out of this world, but it's closing in again, and I don't want that to. I want him to have a normal life. That's why I practically begged the Guardians to let me send him to his grandparents, but they wouldn't let me. I just want him far away from this stuff, which is why I don't want him living here in the base. But now the entire town was sort of, had the wool over its eyes, but now it seems that's lifting, so...
I see. And how has your relationship with your son been?
I don't know. Before all this started, I was sort of the working dad, and I'm looking back now, it seems so stupid how much time I spent in the office, but I'm not that great at touchy, I feel like I'm not a great dad. I can't address all these hard things that are happening, and he keeps looking to me too, and I just can't or won't address them, and I'm not sure how to proceed with it.
What things are you unsure as to how to address?
Julia, I don't know how much you know about that situation.
Would you be willing to tell me about it?
Okay, well, when I was brought into Carlsville, we were on a family camping trip, and over the course of it, Rowan, my other son, got lost in the woods, and I went to look for him and left Julia and Hawthorne together, and then I got back when the mimics started to attack, and Julia was gone, and it was just Hawthorne, and so we ended up in Carlsville together with Hawthorne injured and Julia still missing, and she was still missing for most of our time here, presumed dead after, it's been weeks and weeks and she hasn't shown up again. You gotta presume that she's dead at some point from starvation or exposure or the wilderness. But she wasn't, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Aubrey was purposely keeping her from me to motivate me to stay, that she thought I would leave as soon as I found her, or proof that Rowan was really dead. But she was here in Carlsville the whole time, and she had been stuck in a mimic cave and driven to starvation and madness, and we didn't know it at the time, but she apparently made a deal with Finnegan, just like Lemons did, to stay alive, and it is turning her into a mimic, I think, or some sort of fusion between a mimic and a person, and she lives out in the forest and kills people for them and eats them, and she thinks the other mimic... There's a mimic that has Rowan's voice, his last words, and she treats him like our son. And she was rescued. She was brought back to the house, and she chose to run away back into the forest to live with the mimics. And I know she's either a killer or a monster now, and I don't know how to tell Hawthorne about all this without breaking him.
You don't believe there's any way to save her?
I don't know if there is. I'm worried that I don't think we can trust my judgment on it.
Why is that?
I mean, on the one hand, I am worried that if we do find her and there isn't any hope, that I'm going to try to, cling to hope because, she's my wife, and mother to my son, and cling on to hope unreasonably and put people in danger or find a way to have to feed her people to keep her alive for experiments that are going to be awful or whatever, because my judgment's clouded and I can't see that there isn't any hope. But on the other hand, I feel I keep having these thoughts about how much easier it would be if she had just died, that she had never come home at all. And I'm worried that I'm going to want to make, I'll pretend there's no hope because it would be easier for her to just disappear. For her, it would be unambiguous if she was just a monster and there was nothing else. And I don't know which way I'm going to end up breaking because I'm having a harder time foreseeing which way I'm going to go these days when it comes to these emotional problems. I'm not as predictable, I guess.
Your emotions generally manifest in the moment?
I mean, I've always had the emotions. It's just, I guess, like if there was a wall and it only broke under a certain amount of, if there's a wall and it only breaks when you apply 20 pounds of pressure, and I knew every time exactly it would break at exactly 20 pounds of pressure. Now sometimes it breaks at 17 pounds and sometimes it breaks at 25, and I don't know anymore. I think it's just, this is way more than a person should have to deal with.
She nods. Do you think there are ways in which you would be able to monitor how you are feeling without it sneaking up on you?
I mean, like I said, it's not really that it's sneaking up on me. I'm aware when I'm upset. It's just I'm not as I don't know how to explain it. I've always felt anger and sadness, and I know I feel it as I'm not, emotionless. I do feel it. I can just contain it. And I've never had trouble bearing that weight, but there's just so much of it.
Do you have trouble expressing your feelings to others?
I mean, I've always been an awkward guy. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh, Henderson.
I mean, I was kind of popular in high school and college a bit, but that was more just because I was a really good athlete and could kind of, I was like the down-to-earth guy and all the jocks sort of deal. Not really just, I think if I wasn't, hadn't been a wrestler or star or whatever, I probably would have had less friends. I mean, not that I'm complaining about that. I knew great people through it and all that. I just don't, it was more of an external circumstance than from me.
Nods. I want to ask you a hypothetical question now, if that is all right with you. A more metaphorical.
Okay.
Now, taking into context that you are currently in Guardians, if there was one thing you could change about your situation, we're going to exclude if you could be out of Guardians, because most people would answer that. But if you could change one thing about your situation, what would you change?
Hawthorne wouldn't be stuck here with me.
All right.
Just immediate answer. I don't think I could back out of Guardians knowing everything going on now, even if, it's painful and a lot of work and it's sort of destroyed everything that came up before this point in my life. I can't ignore the fact that there are people suffering and dying, and I know it's selfish that I say I have to work, it's a moral imperative, but I want to save my son from it, even though theoretically every single person in the Guardians is another, body working towards that goal. But if there was anything I could do, it would strip the trauma from his life and let him have a normal life away from all this. Maybe he thinks we all died in a car crash. I'd rather him think he was, there's tons of kids that get over losing their parents or losing their family or losing their home, and they can, it's normal, and there's therapists for that. But this is, once you're in here, you're stuck. There's no normal life after this.
She nods. And then I'm going to now move into a slightly different note. Interpersonal relationships. Do you have any friends here?
He pauses and thinks for a moment. I don't know if it's traditional. I'm on generally good terms with Natalie, I think. I considered Dio a friend, but he's not here now. But it's generally most of the people on my team either ignore me or I don't particularly get along with, and it's hard to consider your superiors, friends sometimes. So he sort of lifts his hands up and does a there you have it shrug thing.
What is it about your superiors that you have trouble considering them friends?
Well, before all this, Bo wasn't really around, and Aubrey and Cheney, obviously there are reasons why I don't get along with them. Hellings, he seems like a good guy in some ways, but then he also cuts off people's hands, and every time, I do feel like there's a potential there, but it's sort of hard for me to push the fact that he cuts off his own people's hands. Oh, we get along, but should we get along? Sort of thing. So I guess my defenses are kind of up with him, even though we talk some. We've talked some, and the rest just haven't really been around enough. And Carly, maybe there was a chance there, but she was unconscious for a lot of the time, and then she just got hurt again. So, and it's hard because most of them are quite a bit younger than me, and I feel sort of awkward being this older guy with all these 20-year-olds sometimes.
So the age gap plays a big factor. you believe?
I don't know big, but like I said, I'm not the most socially outgoing guy in the first place, and it's one tiny, thing that adds up.
Have you spoken with Miss Hathaway?
Not really. She's that was me, Inky, laughing, not Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
You can see Henderson is trying to look for an appropriate word to speak with her.
Pleasant
to
watches
describe
you
her.
patiently.
She, she's very hard to approach, and she seems more engaged in the science part of this than the saving lives parts of this, which sort of puts me off a bit. I can't feel confident that if in a life or death, or a death or science, or life or science situation, she'd pick saving people over death. And if she gets science, I don't. And it's hard, like how I said with Hellings, there's a lot there that to like. It's hard to get over some of the horrible things you see someone do or perceive them as being capable of doing.
And for Miss Hathaway, it is a similar situation.
Yes. I mean, I don't know her that well, so this is probably just first impressions, but she doesn't seem like she cares very much about any of us in particular. Though that, to be fair, she might still be in an adjustment period.
And have you spoken with any of your newer co-workers?
Not. Have been pretty busy since we got back, and we've been gone in the hedge on a mission. There's not a ton of downtime chatting on missions, so no, not really.
She nods. Is there anything else you would like to talk about?
Nope. Stares off into distance.
Excuse me for a moment.
Okay. Do I need to roll something? 1, 2, 3. 3 success.
Yeah, please roll a res comp for me.
Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Oh. Rip and Pip Henderson.
This is an empathy, Henderson.
Yes. Okay.
LOL rip.
She waits silently with one leg crossed and her hands in her lap and this pleasant little smile on her face for a little while. And she's just perfectly silent.
What was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Second, I'm changing songs. I keep you in suspense, haha.
I can't hear the music, so.
I keep everyone else in suspense, haha. Fuck you. What's 1 second, please.
Henderson, you're dead. It was nice knowing you.
It'll do. There is nothing else you wish to speak about?
Thought that comes to the top of my mind. Henderson
Oops.
lies.
Oh, fucking subterfuge, you motherfucker.
Well, he doesn't want to talk about it, so it's not technically
Manipulation
54.
subterfuge, you motherfucker.
4, 6, and I'm willpowering that. Boop.
I cannot force you to talk about anything you don't want to. So,
I mean,
I do want to remind you that these sessions are here to help.
I mean, it seems like you're pressing for. I asked if you wanted to talk about anything else, or and if you said no or whatever, you seem to have an idea about.
I do not know what it is. Call it a hunch, but it seems like there's something on your mind. But if it isn't anything you wish to talk about, that is completely your choice. Before you do leave, I do want to give an assignment. So if you do not want to speak about that, it is completely fine. I would like to talk to you on a later date, though, if that is all right.
I assumed these are going to be multiple sessions. One isn't really enough, but the other's nothing else I really feel comfortable addressing at this time.
She nods. Very well.
Henderson goes into defensive professional voice. There's nothing I feel like further discussing at this time.
Then, do you mind if I give you an assignment?
No.
What I would like you to do is I would like you to, during this next week, have a conversation with either Miss Hellings, Mr. Hellings, or Miss Hathaway. It doesn't have to be long. It can be a brief exchange.
So either of those choices?
Either of those choices. And she smiles. Someone in your age range.
So River or both the Hellingses?
Yes.
Wait, is River in my age range?
She is.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll do one of those two.
One of those two.
You said either or.
There were 3 options.
Oh. I thought you meant the Hellions together. That he had to do
No,
them at the same time.
no,
Okay.
as in like one of the Hellings or Hathaway.
That's why I said both of the Hellingses together.
No.
He was clarifying.
No.
That's
She
fine.
does.
We'll keep him saying one of those two because he misunderstood that himself.
One of those.
Who is he excluding?
Yeah, it's so now Pleasant is like, oh, he's automatically excluding someone.
Whichever you are most comfortable with.
All right. Nods. Gets up. Anything else?
That is all. I hope you have a good day, Anderson.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Ah, yes, the famous Henderlock.
As he slowly scoots.
And then lemons. You black out when you wake up. You're in a therapy room.
Oh
No.
God!
Oh God, there's two of them.
Ah!
Oh no!
Fuck, that one's gone.
I like how there's
Clemens got
just
so spooked that he astral projected into the therapy room so he didn't have to experience it.
Right. Oh boy.
Hooray, Henderson!
I thought I was ready for this. I don't think I'm ready.
Don't worry, I've been saving a song specifically for you.
God.
You
No.
you walk. Shut up. When you walk. God, even after I said it, that felt harsh.
Just a bird. Like, no, you have to go.
Let me change this here for you. There you go. Oh no! God damn it! This is
Guys,
incorrect.
I'm fucking
This is
dead.
incorrect. One moment, please.
Pleasant's just gonna murder me. Like, I thought Yao was an issue, but no, it's Pleasant.
Pleasant with her mega 500 empathy.
No.
She just zooms in like, I see you, you little bitch.
No, I don't need another empathy person.
Pulls out a gun. Let's take this to the court.
No.
I was gonna say pulls out a basketball, but you beat me. You beat me to it.
Do you think your moves are baller, Mr. Evans? Show me your moves.
Show me your moves.
Why can't I get the song? When I try to put it on, it puts on a different song.
What
And
song?
that's
is it one of those ones that's coming
So
up
you
that's not
think
available?
that the ball is your ally? You merely adopted the ball. I was born in it.
You were born in a ball?
I didn't
Jesus.
see. I
Technically,
didn't see
everyone
the
was born
hoop
in a
until I
ball.
was already a woman. By then, it was nothing but to me but towering. The ball betrays you because it belongs to me.
Jesus Christ.
I'm afraid. Oh no, that's it. I don't know why they changed the name. That's strange.
The path to
Lullaby.
And release.
I'm just showing his route, his exit. Or here's the other one, his other optional.
straight out the window.
There we go.
That's technically not a window, that's a bed covered by a carpet.
There we go. I got the
It's a
music.
window now.
Ooh, I like the title.
All right. Lemons, you sit down. And Pleasant smiles. Guess what? Pleasantly.
Uh-huh. And Lemon smiles, like the neutral Lemon smile, and he has his legs like crossed and everything.
Good evening, Mr. Lemons. Is there a preferred name you wish to go by? First or last?
Generally known as Lemons.
Is that what you would prefer?
He shrugs. I go by both.
Well, for this session, we can use Mr. Lemons. If you prefer to go by Guy in the future, please do let me know.
What about yourself? Are you a Mrs. Lee or just Pleasant?
Whichever you prefer.
He
Whatever makes whatever makes you most comfortable.
is still doing the lemony smile, but it is on. The heart game begins.
Yeah, heart game.
Now, before we begin, I want to ask you, is there anything you would like to specifically talk about during our session today?
Not particularly. I guess I was just more curious. What you already know, so I don't have to repeat myself.
What I know or what I've been told by my other patients is confidential.
Yeah?
if we come across a topic that needs more context, I encourage you to please provide me with this information,
So,
if you are comfortable.
so everything said in this room stays in this room. If I'm interpreting that correctly,
That is correct.
I'm going to do a detect lie.
I didn't quite catch that. I'm sorry.
I'm detecting lie.
Go for it.
Oh, yep, there we go.
You do have Sugar Tongue Honey Lips if you want to burn.
Ooh, woo, I'm gonna burn a willpower for a reroll.
All right, you may.
Did.
You keep in mind you can keep doing that until you're out of willpower for future reference.
Well, I'm waiting for. Yeah, we'll do one more.
Okay.
There we go.
Lemons, you can confirm for a fact that she is not lying.
All right. And that was 2 willpower, right? I gotta go mark those. Where's the rural sheet? There it is. Sorry, I just want to mark this. My willpower, very important for this. Okay.
You're just gonna be slamming willpower on this old lady.
Did
Who
I hear
knows?
slam?
Come on and slam.
Lemons comes out with a bloody nose.
her glasses, her granny glasses, just get the glint.
She doesn't have glasses.
The half moon. I love.
But anyway, Lemons, you are able to tell she is not lying.
Okay. All right.
So then we will begin with how are your interpersonal relationships?
Pretty good.
It's gonna be one of these again.
Still, like this whole time, just the smile.
Is there anyone you formed friendships with?
Couple people. I try to be pleasant with everyone. I'm going to roll a lie on that.
All right.
Which one noomed? Which one noomed?
I moved Abner so that he could side eye.
I
I actually think he's side eyeing in the wrong direction though. God damn it. I'm putting him back.
He has to keep an eye on Sal anyway.
He does.
She nods.
I see. Is it important to you to treat everyone kindly?
Well, generally, yes. People are more pleasant when you're nice to them. I like to be a nice guy.
She nods.
Have you had any trouble with anyone? Any less than favorable connections?
Nothing I can't deal with.
She nods.
There's going to be disagreements. It happens.
I gotta think of everything now, because it's always the ones that give the short answers that are a pain in the fucking ass.
Sorry.
It's still great. I'm not giving you shit. You're doing your job.
It takes a bit to open up a lemon, okay?
No, it's okay. I'm not giving you any shit. I promise.
He's only opened up to Sal and Theo. And more Sal than Theo.
What are your thoughts on your current profession?
Which one?
Are there multiple?
I work a side job as a coroner.
And what do you think of that?
Thrilling.
I didn't catch that, I'm sorry.
Thrilling.
And your work in the Guardians?
Interesting. It's an experience I would not have had. And looking back at everything, I don't think I would change it.
What brought you here with us?
Well, like how I got here?
Yes.
I'm sure you could take a look at the file for that.
I'm not a Guardian. I don't have access to the files.
Even as an ex-Guardian?
It is not my business.
Detecting lie?
You may go ahead.
2.
She is telling the truth.
Okay. I drove here. Simply put.
All right.
I'm
She
sorry.
nods. No, it's okay.
Has there been anything that's on your mind recently?
There's always something on someone's mind. I'm usually thinking about, well, this. And he kind of like, motions to well, himself, but like the physique.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I can't really fix.
Are you willing to talk more about that?
Well, what part of it are you interested in?
It's more of what part of it is weighing most on you.
Not much of it swaying much of anything.
When did it start?
This started about... that was back in... Shoot, what session did they do the blood soil thing?
Way back in season 1.
Yeah, I'm looking at what month it was. Quite the burden, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's October, early October, and we are at March 3rd. Oh my god. So the days is literally like months, so January, December, November. About 5 months ago.
Is it something that you are comfortable talking about?
Not really.
Does it change how you view yourself?
Sometimes. Bothers me sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't.
What do you think you could do to help the situation?
That's a loaded question.
She waits patiently and smiles.
He smiles back.
She waits.
What'd you say?
No, I said she waits.
I thought you said she winks. I was like, oh, what?
No.
Well, the most basic way of dealing with it is eating, which is an issue in the fact that I am on a very strict diet.
What sort of strict diet?
The people kind. I'm going to empathy.
All right, go ahead.
I don't have much empathy, but we're going to do this anyways. There. I'm just going to take a look at some of my sugar lip stuff and see if I can do anything there.
She is, she's looking at you just like she was 5 seconds ago before you said it. You cannot tell any change.
Naturally.
And when did these eating habits begin?
A while ago.
Was there any specific circumstance?
Guess you could say that.
Do you think there is a way that you can help yourself with these problems?
With this problem, it's difficult.
Have you reached out to others?
Yes. We're working on ways to fix it. There's no guarantee of anything, but I just take things as they come.
And then I'm going to go ahead and change gears here then,
Mm?
Mr. Lemons.
What kind of gears?
I would like you to tell me about... We've already spoken about your interpersonal life. Would you mind telling me about your family life?
Ooh, I'm gonna roll Resolve Composure for that because that was kind of right on the money there.
Go for it.
We're going to... I'm just gonna do a straight up roll. Net 2.
You are able to keep your composure as she stabs you with a knife. A metaphorical knife.
Metaphorical knife. I'm not very involved with my family. And I guess you could say that part of that is the reason why I am the way I am.
If you had a magic wand and could change one thing about your situation, What would you change? Now this is disincluding being able to be out of Guardians.
No, it's the Henderson. Or did she?
Yes, she's asked everyone some form of that question, unless they were directing their conversation.
Okay. I don't think she said it for Sal's.
I think Sal had a form of it.
Okay. Magic wand. That sounds like something very Fae. Let me think. There's a lot of things I could change with that. And he's thinking. Recrosses his legs as he does the thinking thing.
Hello, Andrew?
Hello?
You cut out, so I wanted to make sure you're still alive.
Oh, did I cut out?
Yeah, what does it all mean? Silence.
Well, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was saying that Lemons is thinking because I am thinking.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I guess the right answer would be to not be dealing with this anymore. The whole starving thing and the whole source of that. But this is anything other sans the
Anything.
Guardians thing?
Anything,
Like we talking like going back in the past thing too?
if you wish.
I had to rest comp there. I'd change my home life.
Is there anything you change it to?
Make it better. Just everyone's like, oh my god.
Do you feel you have a home here?
For now. As now as it can get.
But you don't believe it is permanent?
What is?
What do you think you could do to make this place feel more like a home to you?
I wouldn't really change much of anything. This is... I might roll to see if it climbs up or not. His choice. The situation here is fine. However, I suppose I may as well get this out there. I was going to come to you before they decided to shove this whole therapy thing on us. And then of course she's like, everyone, you should all go to have therapy. And naturally I was inclined not to, but what's it gonna hurt? And I'm gonna backtrack here, so you're kind of in the loop a little because you're not really in the loop unless you get informed or something. I don't know if you've spoken to Cheney yet or not, but she's been having kind of a hard time. And I guess with your whole family thing, I would have to say yes. I mean, she's like a sister that I never had, but she had a brother, and her brother's dead, and it's been giving her a lot of trouble. And after what happened in the hedge, I kind of saw how it was, what it was doing to her, and realized that I might be going in that direction if I don't deal with this thing. So I was going to talk to you, and now I'm talking to you. So now that you're updated, and he's going to look at her to see that she's still listening, right?
She is listening.
About my home family situation, the thing I would change is my mother, and that she wasn't really much of one. And that's affected me in a very large way, enough that I have been holding a grudge against her.
She nods as she listens.
And because of that grudge, I haven't quite let her go, because I don't feel like I can. Anyway, she's been calling me. She calls me a lot. Sometimes I give her enough to know that I've heard, but I don't really talk to her back. And I've gotten to the point where I should probably talk to her.
Are you afraid to talk to her?
I like to be in control of my own emotions, and I feel like I don't have that with her.
Would you be inclined to say that you don't feel comfortable being emotionally vulnerable?
That was a good transition. I've turned my sound on a little. And she asked what about being emotionally vulnerable?
You aren't comfortable. Are you not comfortable being emotionally vulnerable? Is essentially what she said in a much more eloquent manner.
Okay. He's going to fix her with a look and say nothing.
She waits. It was formed in a question,
Right.
not like a statement.
Right.
Okay.
Thinking. Emotions and I don't play nice.
Why is that?
Shrugs. He shrugs. He doesn't do the Nat thing and say shrugs while he shrugs, but he shrugs.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we end our session today?
Concerning the call, I want
She
some
knocks.
advice from an ex-guardian, or rather retired one, on
Yes?
how I could frame the explanation of my absence without inciting her trying to find me or find out more of where I am. I kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. In fact, I think that's kind of how it was with everyone. At least how the story seems to go.
Had she known where you were before you came to Guardians?
Yes. Kind of. I never
Vaguely.
gave her a direct address, but she knew I was in Maine.
I believe the best approach would be the most honest one. That you are wanting to get in contact again, but you are not yet comfortable talking about where you are because you do not feel you have a bond at that point. You have a secondary job here. You are a coroner, right? Or a mortician.
Yes.
You're working a mortician job in Wisconsin.
I don't really want to give her a state.
You don't need to give her a state because you getting in contact with her is all that's really important. You do not need to give her whatever information you are not comfortable with. Establishing contact does not mean you need to tear yourself open for them. It's just a step.
I'm gonna roll resolve composure. You can try to empathy if you want.
Okay.
You get a -2 though, because he's rigid.
Okay, fuck you.
Did that hit Lemons in a genuine place there?
The fuck, what part was it? Now that we got this far, it was something that she said that, oh, tearing himself open. I think it was.
Oh, you don't have to tear yourself open for them?
Yeah.
Reroll, by the way. I got 3 successes,
You
bitch.
got it.
Haha.
At the thought of emotionally tearing himself open, just in general, he looks like a very uncomfortable lemon. This lemon does not like to display feelings.
If she asks for personal information, you are in control of your situation. You have every right in the world to refuse her that information if it would make you more comfortable or more safe.
Okay.
If you ever feel that you want to share your location or give a more proper story, we can certainly work together to brainstorm something up that'll work. And I am sure your superiors would also be happy to help you in that regard as well.
I was going to say, I'd imagine at that point they would have to know.
Yes. But for the time being, if you do wish to talk to her, you do not need to tell her anything you don't want to.
Okay.
And then before we end today, I do have an assignment for you.
You get an eyebrow raise at that?
If you are all right with that.
Depends on the assignment.
I would like you, for the next week, to write down how you feel after in certain encounters. If it is anything that affects you in any certain way, I'd like you to write it down.
You want me to keep a diary?
I do. Just for a week. You don't need to put any details in it. It can be one simple word.
And if I don't?
Then you don't. But I believe this could...
We have major echo. 1 second. Okay. Sorry, that was strong.
You do not need to do anything you don't want to. However, I do believe this assignment will help you in overcoming some of the problems you are facing with your emotions.
I'll think about it.
What do you say? I'm sorry?
I'll think about it.
She nods.
There will not be any further required counseling sessions, but my door is always open if you wish to speak.
All right. He gets up. Does she
You
stand
get
up
up.
too?
Oh, no, she keeps sitting.
Okay. Well, he's going to walk over and he's going to hold his hand out.
She holds her hand out and gives you a good handshake.
It has been a relatively pleasant experience.
I'm glad to help. You have a fantastic day, Mr. Lemons.
To you as well. And then shakes and then heads out.
You head out and go ahead and roll a perception.
It's okay. 2.
Alright, let's
Actually, no, fuck it. I'm gonna willpower. Why not? Because
Okay,
after all these therapies, we're gonna have our willpower back, right?
pretty much.
Okay. Should I just tack on 3 more dice?
Sure.
Okay, 4 total.
Cool. You see Helling's coming down the hall.
And
you
when Lemons passes, he might be like, knock him out.
Does he?
I'm going to empathy him first. Figure out if this
Alright.
is a good idea.
Go ahead and roll an empathy.
Okay, here we go. 3.
Second. Reroll.
Ooh. 2.
Alright, Lemons. You can tell he's nervous. He's kinda rigid. And you get the sense that this man is so masculine he has trouble sharing his feelings.
Oh no. The knock him out might pull out some punchy feels that he's very guilty about, so.
That's up to you, Lemons.
Mm.
Unless you need to roll to compose yourself to keep yourself from doing it.
We got it. I am going to be a good lemon and not compromise the beginning of a session with a joke that might ruin it.
Okay.
However, how squeaky are the floorboards?
They're squeaky.
Squeaky enough that anyone standing in front of a room would be able to hear?
Depends on how light your feet are and how they're placed.
I'm not stealthy. Whose room was the one next to it before? Whose room was that?
I don't know. Oh, it was Henderson's, now it's Rivers.
Oh, well, he doesn't know. I don't think he knows if River's taken it or not.
I don't, Tori? Does River sleep in there?
She has doesn't she have like a hammock
She's
downstairs?
sleeping in the basement. You need to put a bed in there.
He might pass Hellings, head to his room, and then after that, move over to Henderson's room and see if he can hear something.
All right. He passes you with a nod.
Not back.
Mr. Lemon.
Mr. Hellings.
And go ahead and roll a observation as the door closes. All right, you hear the door close and you hear, "Evening, Miss Lee."
Good evening, Matthew.
Couldn't see.
You naughty lemon.
Lemons, I'm gonna need you to roll a dex stealth.
No.
Dex stealth,
No.
bitch. Plus 2 for light.
Okay. So it's 4. I'm gonna do more. Let's see. Gonna. It's not worth risking, so we'll just straight up willpower. I don't want to fucking risk it and then go blast into a wall or something.
You're like standing up on this chair to get a better angle and you slip and kick it out from under you.
Right.
Just huge clattering noise as you fall on the floor.
Okay, so this is a 7, I think. 3.
All right, you are a stealthy lemon.
Yes.
You carefully step up on the chair so you don't make any floorboard noises.
He might even like. Well, I mean, he might have even like closed the door, and later just crash in River's bed, because he's a fucking gremlin.
Okay, go ahead and roll a perception to try and spy on the conversation.
Eh. Can it be an extended?
I will allow an extended roll.
Ayo.
I will only allow you 3 rolls, so if you don't get a good roll by the 3rd, you fall asleep.
Yes. I know River's seeing this.
She's like, damn, why didn't I think of that?
Alright.
Okay.
Lemons. You are listening, and some of it's more difficult than others to hear. But in the middle, you're able to make out Pleasant's voice, and I'm going to change this because this isn't Matthew's therapy music. All right.
Megalomania. We start hearing, "Come on and jam." Nice.
And you hear, muffled through the wall.
And what would you say of your interpersonal relationships here?
And you hear him start, "Oh, that one's a bit complicated. I do try and... No, negative. It's hard to balance being a boss and being relatable or a person. And before all this, I was strict, I was on the ball, I was doing everything I possibly could to try and keep this place working. And it felt like every step forward I took 3 steps backwards because I was pushed. It felt like no one was working with me, and it was just so frustrating. And I think it showed. I did. Because I think to most of my subordinates and my co-workers, I became this tyrant. I became this unagreeable bastard who had nothing else, no existence outside of work. And I tried to disprove that a couple times. It didn't work, I don't think. There was a point in which we had a night over at the St. Billings Mansion. They played a game of, what was it? 2 Truths and a Lie, I think it was. Well, not played, you know. I had a wine. Was it a beer? I don't remember. And we sat down and we had a good game. And that was fun. That was a very good experience. But what follows afterward was... I felt I got carried away. I let the frustration and the stress of being constantly disobeyed and it got to me. And I didn't think there was any way to get them under control unless I was harsh, so that they would listen, if they just listen. Instead of constantly running out, I worried about them. And they would just put themselves in danger without even thinking about it. And I made a very stupid decision. And in return, one of my most prized subordinates did me a good one. I almost died. I come to, I didn't remember half the things. I barely speak. I've been having migraines ever since. And I don't know what to do. I feel ashamed. I feel embarrassed. I would have demoted myself. You know, if I were in charge of the situation and my subordinates were able to do that to me, I am not meant to be in charge. But here I am, still an ace and doing fuck all. And that's all you hear.
That was fucking amazing.
Everyone applause for Bree. Yay.
I feel like a dog that just did a backflip.
Good job, Bree.
You did
He's a
it.
good Bree.
He's
a good Bree.
Bree.
You breathe.
Wagstail.
Also, oh boy, listen to that juicy baggage you got a hold of.
Mm-hmm. And that ain't leaving its lips, even if River. Well,
And you will be hearing from River.
oh, I'm sure he saw Cameron wink.
To the wall like a chameleon, Mr. Lemons. And he's like, ah!
Lemon's
You didn't see her at first because she had the gargoyle skin on.
Right, Lemon's just like, what, you didn't put any speakers in here? Or any
I
mics?
installed speakers in your esophagus.
Yeah, he'll afterwards, he'll probably fall asleep on her bed.
You'll have to burn that.
And then next session is going to be an actual session now that we're finally done with therapy.
Yeah.
You're never done with therapy, Bree.
I mean, if anyone wants their characters to have side therapy, even though I give I say shit about therapy, please let me know and we'll do it. It's actually no big deal. I'm just a dramatic bitch.
Feels so good.
But yes, to be continued. Next episode of Fuck Me in the Ass Sometime.
That's a great show.
Great show. Okay, I'm gonna throw EXP at the two people I didn't throw you at.
I want XP.
No!
Oh. I tried.
Like you slapped
Give me the
Kareem
good
off the
shit.
table.
Good.
I just like I just crawled on the table and I'm yelling at Giant Bree. I want XP. No, slaps me off the table. Oh look, there's a Theo here, but that's not the right one, right, Angie?
Boing! Oh wait, I already gave everyone else therapy XP. Never mind. Ha! Fuck y'all.
Oh.
But do we get the mission
Ending recording
mission
then?
success? Good old XP. Everybody did it.
Do you need us to do what we learned?
Yes, go ahead. Henderson, what did you learn?
That Patience wants to snip deeper, even though he opened up about some stuff. Patience still senses other stuff, and he's going to defend stuff.
Pleasant, her name is Pleasant.
Pleasant.
Pleasant. Patience.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Howdy. I would like to know some stuff, Mr. Henderson.
Oh no.
Oh hell, how did I end up here?
Now that's an
Howdy,
A.
tell me.
Now,
Tell me how
now
you
that's
feel.
an AU.
I actually really do see Patience in rural. That probably would work really well.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
but the alternative.
polar and rural crossover, right?
The alternative?
So many people would be playing two characters.
Yeah.
And all of the GMs would also be playing a character.
Except Bree. Bree would be fine.
Bree would be 17 characters. What are you talking about?
That's a good point, actually. We GM a million NPCs. I'm sure we can play our character as well.
Don't you want to know what I learned?
No.
Get out of here, Lemon.
Fucking cares, Lemon.
I was so tempted just to stay quiet.
That was so funny. All right, that's
Don't
the
you
end.
want to know what I learned? Silence.
Good
Leaves the
night.
call. What'd you learn, bitch?
I learned Helling secrets. I also
That's
learned
not-
I gotta talk to my mom.
Okay. Any side RPs that need to be done, I'm going to make the executive calls that if anyone needs an RP from me, I step down, I do a peck wiggle. Tuesday.
I don't know where this is going, and I don't like it.
On Tuesday, your local Brianna has no work. Your local Brianna will do RPs.
Okay, I would do that, but I don't think it would qualify as an RP because it would literally just be Tomo going in there being like, "Hey, what do we talk about?" And if it was any different, then he'd have he'd redo it. So if it's different, then yes.
Tomo.
That's up to you.
We will do that Tuesday.
Oh, well, okay, then I guess it's different.
Excellent.
Shit.
I have to figure out which one of those three people had. I guess since Henderson thinks it has to be Hellions and I should
He just gathers them both in like the library.
So
no, that makes the river the less intimidating option.
that'd be a hilariously awkward scenario to.
Yeah,
Pleasant
just,
told me to sit down and talk with you two.
He just sets them both down. Hello, and then he gets up and leaves.
fucking goes back to Pleasant, just like, alright, I talked to both the Hellings, and river, and she's just like, "Oh, how was that?" And he's like, "You know, it would have been a lot easier, I think, if maybe I could talk to one or the other." And she's just like, "Huh?"
No, not Hellions and River. He thinks Hellions and Aisha. He has to like sit down and have a hello. This is I.
Hello, and they say hello, and then like you leave, and like there we talked.
This is me, Richard Henderson.
Aisha, Matthew, hi. Let's have human interaction.
I really don't like this.
I want to have a beer afterward.
No, stop. Don't do this to me.
Okay, should I just end recording?
Oh, oh God, please.
Kill it.
Got all